Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Public and Protective Services Committee meeting for December 10th, 2024. My name is Wendy Bosch. I'm the chair of this committee, and on this committee is Councillor Blackmore, Councillor Berg, and Mayor Clayton. First, we'll go into the land acknowledgement. The city respectfully acknowledges the Beaver, Cree, Dene, and Métis people as the original caretakers of these lands and surrounding areas. We are grateful to live, learn, work, and play on Treaty 8 territory within Turtle Island and acknowledge these lands have been home to the diverse and sovereign First Nations and Inuit nations since time immemorial. And with that, we will look into the adoption of the agenda. Do I have anyone?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Blackmore. We'll call that to vote. And that is carried. Mayor Clayton will be here shortly, but we'll move on for now. We don't have any delegations this morning, so we're going to go directly into the service area update. And Chief Lemieux.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So starting with the Grande Prairie Police Service update, I met with senior management at the RCMP Division on December the 6th to discuss the RCMP demobilization plan. The plan is expected to be shared with the city later this week, so as soon as the plan is shared with the city, we'll share it with the transition team and share it with the City Council. From Enforcement Services, active enforcement of snow routes continues as officers work to clear vehicles from roadways, enabling snowplows to operate more effectively. Since November 21st, the department has received 10 complaints about vehicles parked on snow routes and has issued 201 citations for obstructing snow removal operations. And during the latest reporting period, Enforcement Services received 53 complaints about unshoveled walkways citywide, so officers have been contacting property owners and residents to educate them on bylaw requirements and issuing fines for non-compliance. In terms of peace officer training, Peace Officer Sergeant Balfour recently completed a use of force investigators course, enhancing the department's capacity to investigate use of force incidents. Additionally, Peace Officer Sergeant Hoffman and Peace Officer Gautreau completed a radar and LiDAR instructors course, enabling Enforcement Services to provide in-house training for traffic enforcement technology. From the RCMP invited local community members to participate in town halls held on November 26th and 27th at the Teresa Sargent Hall at Montrose Cultural Centre. These town halls provide an opportunity to discuss crime and public issues in Grande Prairie. Both nights were well attended and served as a platform for participants to voice their concerns and help the RCMP better serve the public. Additionally, residents were able to participate in an online survey from November 1st to December 1st, providing an opportunity to share their feedback on policing at their convenience. That online survey was very well responded to. I think we had over 700 responses, so we can expect a What We Heard report at a later time. In terms of recreation and events, the ASAA football provincials were held on November 22nd, 23rd at Hanson Lincoln Field, featuring 439 athletes, 104 coaches and staff, and 24 officials. And despite the cold temperatures and snowfall, the event attracted 835 attendees. Feedback from the organizing committee and the rights holder has been overwhelmingly positive. So thank you for that good work. In terms of membership and sales at Eastlink Centre, as expected, the popularity of the annual mystery gift card sale did not disappoint. When the facility opened at 5:30 a.m., folks with lawn chairs in hand started to line up for the 7 a.m. start time. The long line moved very quickly as the 900 available mystery gift cards were sold out in 58 minutes. Good news for the Ernie Radburn Pavilion. A concession operator is anticipated to begin operations at the pavilion in the coming weeks. Look forward to that. Festival funding applications are due January 1st. This is for funding up to $14,000 for nonprofit organizations hosting local festivals. And from events and entertainment, Bonnet's Energy Centre hosted the annual tree lighting event in partnership with the Downtown Association. And that was followed by the Battle of the Badges hockey game with police taking a cup this year for the second year in a row. All proceeds raised were donated to the Helping Hand Society of Grande Prairie. Just in terms of events listening, just a few events coming up. The Storm versus Canmore Eagles on December the 13th. Peace Region Girls Choir Concert, December 17th at the Montrose Cultural Centre, and a New Year's evening out, December 31st at Muskosipi Park, and finally the Grand North Winter Festival, January 8th at the 10th at the Bonnets Energy Centre, Montrose Cultural Centre, and Muskosipi Park. From Housing and Community Development, Youth Career Expo is in the planning stages, and successful grants to support the Youth Career Discovery Expo will receive $5,000 from the Northwestern Alberta Foundation and $28,600 from the Government of Alberta Workforce Partnership Grant. So we're really pleased with that. In terms of Grande Prairie Fire Department, the city has applied for the Wawanesa Insurance Community Wildfire Prevention Grant. This grant provides up to $15,000 towards community wildfire prevention and mitigation strategies. And finally, from GPREP, Emergency Management, the GPREP manager, Jennifer Wood, is retiring later this month, and the recruitment process has been initiated for Jennifer's replacement. And I would like to personally thank Jennifer for being the face and leader of our regional emergency management efforts since GPREP's inception. Madam Chair, that's my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief Lemieux. As always, lots going on. Is there any questions from committee? Councillor Blackmore.
Chief Lemieux, I'm curious about the success of the sales at the Eastlink Centre on the weekend. I'm pretty sure that 2 years ago when they started the gift card sales, that did increase membership at the Eastlink Centre. I know that when I got there at 10 to 7, the lineup went through the Serpentine and all the way back to the squash courts. I still made it to the front of the line 8 minutes before they sold out, apparently. And then the 10% discount that took place on Saturday, I'm just curious if we have any way of calculating whether or not that drives membership now. I think that after 2 years, the gift card sale, the people I saw online I know are all primarily members. So I'm wondering what the value is long-term with that program, other than the fact that it saves me money eventually.
Thank you for the question. So it's something that we evaluate every year. I can tell you that I don't have the final numbers in front of me, but I could tell you that the December 7th membership sale was also a tremendous success, probably better than we expected. So I'll have a final report, but your question is, I think, very timely in terms of we continue to evaluate these different programs and how much value do they add. And so we'll be doing that evaluation again this year once we have all the final tabulations.
Okay, I'll be very curious to see those numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Chief Lemieux, do you know how much was raised in donations from the Battle of the Badges by chance?
I don't have the final tally, but as soon as I do, I'll bring it back.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to 5.2, the Community Advisory Annual Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'd like to introduce Jackson Willis, the Recreation and Culture Coordinator, who will provide the Community Advisory Committee Annual Report.
Welcome, Jackson.
Thank you.
Go ahead when you're ready.
So I'm here this morning to provide the annual update on behalf of the Community Advisory Committee and highlight some of their accomplishments for 2024. So in terms of a little bit of a background, the Community Advisory Committee this year consisted of 10 public members who met every month or as required. The committee had 6 meetings in 2024, with our final meeting of the year taking place last week. Looking ahead to 2025, there were 2 vacant public member positions that have been filled. As well, Dr. Ricky Gohl has taken on the chair position for this committee, and we'll look to have Dr. Gohl attend to provide this update next year for 2025. Moving into the highlights from this committee. So this year, the committee reviewed and supported 78 total grants, totaling roughly $288,000. For Pursuit of Excellence funding, we were able to recommend funding for athletes, coaches, officials, and organizations across 20 different sports for a total of $42,225. This amount includes Come Fly With Me funding, which we're able to provide to athletes each year through our continued partnership with the Northwestern Alberta Foundation and the endowment fund established by Ryan Blay. We were also able to recommend roughly $91,000 in arts and culture funding to support both festivals as well as local arts and culture group operations. And we were also able to support a variety of events within the community this year. These recommendations totaled $130,000 between large-scale tourism as well as sport hosting grant funding. These events included Grand Con, the Regional Air Show, the ASAA High School Football Provincials, as well as the ACAC College Soccer Championships, among other regional and provincial championship sporting events. The committee also made funding recommendations of $25,000 for 7 different community improvement grant projects, and these are scheduled to be completed in 2025. And finally, internal city departments attended meetings to present and request feedback from the committee on a number of topics. This included the lawn bowling facility engagement, museum expansion project, municipal heritage designations, the Treaty 8 monument, and the secondary suite engagement. It is anticipated that feedback from this committee will continue to be solicited for future projects and initiatives. In closing, administration is requesting that this committee recommend council accept this report for information, and I'm open to taking any questions at this time.
Thank you, Jackson. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Bosch. Thanks, Mr. Willis, for the report. Just curious, is there any unallocated funds or any carryover funds from this?
Thank you, through the chair. So for festival funding, I believe we had about $7,000 roughly remaining. In previous years, we've used the maximum. So again, close. And Pursuit of Excellence, again, I think was within $1,000 of that maximum amount. All of our other funds were to the maximum, which is obviously a good sign. The community is accessing the grants that we have.
Yeah, so about 97-ish% spent. So what happens with that money that is not allocated?
So, I mean, the budgets for those funds are, approved year to year at budget. So anything additional is kind of, would be above my pay grade, so to say.
All right.
But yeah, that would be something for Katie or Stephanie. Katie is here, so she can take that.
Hello, Katie.
Hello, thank you. So with arts development, any surplus goes into the Public Art Reserve.
Okay, thank you.
Journal entered in.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Blackmore.
I'm curious if you can give us more information on the community improvement grant. It's a pretty broad term, and you've given out 7 grants for a total of $25,000. If people want to access that fund, what's it for, and how would they go about that?
Thank you, through the chair. So the application deadline is October of every year, and it is for nonprofit organizations or fundraising groups. So typically it would be neighborhood associations are the most frequent groups that access it, but it did just come forward. So we did have, we've had fundraising societies for the schools that have been building playgrounds, those types of groups, but it is limited to nonprofits specifically that are able to access those funds. And we have 2 different funding streams for that. So there's the smaller grant of $2,500, and then we do provide matching funds up to $5,000, depending on the project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? I just have a quick question in regards to this committee. Does it change yearly, or is every 5 years with the people on it, or is there a process?
Thank you, Chair Bosch. So every year we do public member appointments for the committee, but they're not all turning over in the same year. So typically the term is 2 years, and then we would have maybe half the group turnover every year.
Great. Okay, perfect. Thank you for the report. Thank you, Jackson. Anybody else? Okay, we're going to move on to approve. Yes.
I would move the committee recommend council receive this report for information.
Thank you, Councillor Blackmore. And that is carried. Now we'll go to 5.4, and we will look at noise levels in residential areas. Oh, did I move that already? Oh, see, I did that already. Goodness. 5.3, towing requirements.
Thank you,
Chief
Madam
Lemieux.
Chair. So the next three reports will be presented by Helen Napier, our Enforcement Services Managing Director, and thank her very much. She did a lot of work in preparing for this particular committee, so I'll turn it over to Helen.
Thank you, Ms. Napier.
Thank you. Good morning. With regards to towing requirements, Council directed administration to bring a report back outlining what legal tow requirements exist in the event of a motor vehicle collision and how residents can find information on the city's contracted tow company. For background, in August 2018, the Collision Reporting Centre commenced operations in the City of Grande Prairie through a collaborative partnership with Accident Support Services International, known as ASSI, the City of Grande Prairie, and the RCMP. ASSI provides collision reporting services to police agencies at no cost to either the police or the public, as its funding is derived from the insurance industry. As part of the partnership, the RCMP and the City of Grande Prairie formalized their collaboration through a memorandum of understanding that established the CRC's operating protocols. Under Alberta law, all collisions involving injuries or total damages exceeding $5,000 must be reported. However, there is no legal obligation to present damaged vehicles during the reporting process. If individuals opt to have their damaged vehicles towed to the CRC, staff will document and photograph the damage, apply damage stickers, complete the motor vehicle collision report, and assist in facilitating contact with the respective insurance companies. In the event of a motor vehicle collision requiring vehicle removal from the roadway, drivers may select any towing company and direct their vehicle to be transported to a location of their choice. If drivers are unable to contact a towing company or express no preference, emergency personnel will arrange for the city's designated towing contractor to provide service. To provide Grande Prairie residents with comprehensive information on collision reporting requirements and details regarding the city's contracted tow company, relevant resources have been added to the city's website under the City Services section. Additionally, business cards containing information on collision reporting requirements and the city's contracted tow company will be created and made available to residents. This concludes my report. I recommend committee receive this report for information, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Napier. Let's check if any of our committee members. Councillor Berg.
Thanks, Chair Bosch. So, Ms. Napier, thank you so much for the work. I'm just kind of curious, and it may be underlying in the reports, but are officers on scene instructed to inform those involved of their options? Like you say that cards will be made available. Do they hand out the cards?
Thank you for the question through the chair. So the cards are yet to be made, so they will be made. However, I can tell you that we have done a lot of education with the officers this fall to make sure that everybody has the same information. So that includes RCMP officers and peace officers, as well as our contracted tow company operators. So everybody has the same knowledge and are advising people roadside of what their choices are.
Yeah, because I prefer that roadside information because honestly, unless you're in an accident, you're not going to go do that pre-research in anticipation of one. So it's information that you'll want at the time of the event, not, again, having it in advance is great, but I honestly don't think very few people would go to the website in advance of an accident. So thank you.
Thank you. In relation to that, a personal experience of being in a car accident, a tow company was called in on our behalf, but I wanted the car taken somewhere and they declined. Can they do that? I wanted it taken to a collision center, basically.
Thank you for the question, Chair Bosch. So in discussions with our contracted tow company, the only reason why that would be expressed is if they have concerns for their employees going to a place where they have safety may be in question. But no, we have clarified with that contracted tow company that if there is nothing that prevents you from bringing it to someone's driveway or anywhere, you can have it towed wherever your location of choice is.
Yeah, there was no safety issues. The problem with that is you're incurring costs to people or insurance companies that are unnecessary by taking them to a lot and then from that lot taken to the collision center. So that's why I asked that question. Councillor Brassey.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the report. And I did click through and go to the website that's been put together. Really appreciate that. I think that's really helpful to people having that website. Just one little bit of feedback for it. Can't tell you folks what to do, but just can tell you how I read it when I first read it. And it's got a whole section on the Collision Reporting Center, but then below it's got vehicle towing FAQs that have pull-down menus, and it's the last menu that you pull down that says you don't actually have to tow it to the Collision Reporting Center. And I think maybe some thought should be put into putting in the main section with the Collision Reporting Center that feedback about, hey, it's not mandatory. It might be recommended by your insurance company, but it's not mandatory. I just say that 'cause one of the concerns I've had is it is expensive to get towed to the Collision Reporting Center and then get towed to wherever you are. And there are people that are incurring that expense because they think it's mandatory. And I'm afraid that the way the website is laid out right now, it makes it look like the Collision Reporting Center is mandatory because they're only going to read the one section of the Collision Reporting Center, not click through all the FAQs. So can't tell you what to do, but just could share how I personally saw the website when I read it. But I do think it's a really good information and everything's well written, so do appreciate the work that went into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brassey. Councillor Blackmore.
We can just follow up with that same line of thinking. If you don't take your car to the collision center, tell me what takes place. Do you still go there and you still make your accident report at the collision center? Do they give you the sticker for the window, or how does that work?
Ms. Napier?
Thank you for the question through the chair. Yes, so you would go to the Collision Reporting Center, make your report. You can actually now start your collision report online. It still does require you to go into the Collision Reporting Center to finish it because there's some identification things that need to happen, but you can start it online at home, get most of it completed, and then go in. So you would go in there. They will still give you that damage sticker. One thing to note, I can give you a stat from 2023, approximately 80% of insurance of the accident seen in Grande Prairie was through an insurance company that partners with ASSI. So that might be something to keep in mind.
So then if you're in an accident and you have your car towed to an auto body shop, then there's still an insurance appraiser who goes there and looks at your car?
Thank you for the question through the chair. I can't tell you, sometimes they're doing those types of things from a distance, and sometimes they will send out an adjuster. That's up to the insurance company. So our part in this is to make sure somebody reports to the Collision Reporting Center and report their accident. Beyond that, what an insurance company does to get the information they need is not out of scope for us.
Yeah. I just think that if people understand that process, then they won't ask to have their car towed to the collision center. If it's a completely unnecessary thing, we need to make sure people understand that. But so, yeah, I appreciate the work you're doing on this, and I think it'll make a difference. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Clayton?
Thanks, Chair Bosch. Ms. Napier or Chief Lemieux, I just want to go back to when we started this because it's been a while, and I forget some of the reasons we are actually doing it this way. So there's the ease of reporting. You don't have to go to the RCMP detachment. Obviously, the Eastlink Center is quite accessible. Tell me other reasons why we're doing it this way. And I know there was a partnership initially when we first implemented it. And there's the operation side I'm curious about if we're happy with how this is going. The other, if we consider it a success, the other part of it for me, I still don't know why we would ever tow vehicles to a recreational facility. It just seems bizarre to me. And so maybe you guys can help fill in. It's been a while since we talked about this. Thanks.
Would like to take that. Ms. Napier?
Thank you for the question. So I think two parts there. I can go back to a prior report and tell you the objectives when we first start out. So it was to provide a solution to the RCMP that allows for additional collisions to be deployed to the Collision Reporting Center to maximize officers' availability. It provided a solution to Grande Prairie to maximize the reallocation of their municipal employees. With that, I can say we through natural attrition, seen the savings in 4 positions that reduced the amount of administrative work that had to be done at the detachment. And then, of course, there was another objective was to save time in the administrative component of it. It's put into one system and supposed to be downloaded directly into the police reporting system. That was another reason. And it was to provide real-time, or I shouldn't say real-time, but faster road information to municipal road engineers. They have waited up to 2 years to get it in the prior system, and this they get it a lot quicker and can address concerns at intersections, those types of things. So that was some of the objectives at the beginning of it. And Part B.
So can we do it without bringing vehicles to the Eastlink?
Yeah. So of course, I think we all see that the best location for a company like this would be co-located. At the time they were brought to Grande Prairie, the detachment did not have room for them. So we looked at the next best location. And of course, the location is good. I think when I went and visited there, I can say that sometimes there's a bit of congestion at the time school is going in, lunchtime, and maybe when school is getting out. So that was the next best location at the time. It's something that I think is going to be considered in the future of where the best location is for them.
Okay, go ahead.
A question for Chief Lemieux. In time, as we transition fully to the Grande Prairie Police Service and the county RCMP members move out of our building, in the foreseeable future, is it a possibility that the Collision Reporting Center could move back to the detachment?
Chief Lemieux?
Thank you for the question. So definitely it's something we're going to look at. It's a conversation we're going to have with GPPS. GPPS has visited the detachment recently to start thinking about space allocation. So it'll be part of the conversation, and we'll make sure to keep City Council apprised of any movements.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Okay. So we'll get a motion to accept this information. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like committee to receive this report for information.
Thank you. That's in order. We'll call the question. Carried. Thank you. Now we'll move to 5.4, noise levels in residential areas. Ms. Napier?
In regards to noise levels in residential areas, committee directed administration to work with the Grande Prairie Police Service and RCMP to bring back a report with a plan and alternatives for policing noise levels in residential areas. For a bit of background, noise pollution caused by excessively loud vehicles is a concern in our city. It disrupts the peace, affects the health and well-being of residents, and detracts from the overall quality of life. The 2020 Traffic Noise Monitoring Program conducted by Golder determined that sound levels at all residential receptors were within the 65 decibel traffic noise limit set out in the city's 2022 Transportation Master Plan. However, citizens have expressed concerns to both council and administration, accompanied by requests for service. The following table shows our requests for service over the last few years. 2024 year-to-date, which was October 31st, we had 74 calls for service. 2023, 52. 2022, 55 calls. 2021, 54. Should be noted that calls for service in regards to vehicle noise accounts for 0.8 to 1.1% of our total annual calls for service. Earlier this year, concerns regarding vehicle noise were thoroughly reviewed, resulting in the development and implementation of a following plan. First, it involved research and evaluation, where 13 Alberta municipalities and law enforcement agencies were consulted to gather information and insights on their approaches to addressing excessive vehicle noise within their communities. Another part was a training plan where a program was developed on enforcing excessive vehicle noise and was delivered to all enforcement services peace officers. The plan also involved an education piece where a media release was issued to raise awareness about concerns related to vehicle noise and to inform residents about ongoing enforcement efforts. Additionally, an amnesty event was organized aimed at educating drivers about legal and illegal modifications to their vehicles. Another big part of the plan was the enforcement. So from January 1st to October 31st, 2024, a total of 160 violation tickets were issued related to excessive vehicle noise. In addition to regular enforcement efforts, 6 targeted traffic operations focused specifically on noisy vehicles during the summer of 2024. Another part that will be happening is a review of our activities in 2024. So in an upcoming 2025 strategic planning session with enforcement services, a review of activities undertaken to address noisy vehicles will be conducted. The session will focus on identifying both successes and challenges with the objective of refining education and enforcement strategies to effectively address vehicle noise in 2025. That concludes my report. Recommend committee receive the report for information. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Napier. Councillor Blackmore, and then Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Councillor Bosch. Ms. Napier, first of all, I am really happy that we have started to take action against noisy vehicles and are issuing tickets. I think that that is long overdue. I'm wondering 2 things. One is if we're also dealing with coal rolling vehicles as an exhaust modification, is that included in this effort, or is that a separate bylaw? I'm not sure how that works.
Ms. Napier?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, it was something that was identified through the research, and the sergeant who did the research on this is recommending, when we get to our bylaw, recommending some changes to address that issue. So that'll be upcoming, and we'll talk about that in our planning session in 2025. So it is something that's on our radar, and we're looking at the best ways to go about addressing it.
Okay. And my second question is, if you stop someone and the discussion is they just need more education and they need to go and change how their vehicle is modified, are they required to come back to the depot at any point to prove that they actually did what they said they would to avoid a ticket?
Ms. Napier?
Thank you for the question through the chair. Yes, so it's officer discretion, roadside, whether they're giving a traffic violation notice, something we refer to as a TVN, that says if you go get this fixed, come back and show us, then you're good to go, or if they give the ticket straight away. And I think that depends on a lot of factors, roadside, weather, which direction they go. One thing that I have heard, feedback I've heard back is, a lot of people are not interested in fixing that vehicle. They don't express that. So a ticket is given in those circumstances.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Burke.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Bosch. So I've got a couple questions. For me, I notice it mostly between 9 p.m. and 2 a.m. People ripping up and down streets, very loud. It's the summer, windows are open, wrecks people's sleep. Were any of these, issued between 9 and 2, or what time of day was, I don't want to call it a sting because I don't know if it was a sting necessarily, but what time was the monitoring done?
Ms. Napier?
Thank you for the question through the chair. I didn't bring those specific times with me, so the ongoing enforcement is done at any time that an officer is out and finds a vehicle that to pull over that's got excessively loud noise. The 6 traffic operations specific to that, I didn't bring the times of those either. That is something we can definitely get back to you about times, but I would say that they're random throughout the day. They're not always the same time, that type of thing. So we do have officers working peace officers working until midnight. So after midnight, those operations wouldn't happen at the peace officer level.
Okay, and so is each unit equipped with the sound monitoring equipment?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair. We did not go with sound monitoring equipment. The research was done into whether we were going to go that route. What our research showed us is that not a lot of municipalities had success with the sound monitoring. We know they did have some success in Edmonton with regards to motorcycles, but some municipalities have it into their bylaws about decibel readings, but they're actually not using them. So we didn't choose to go that route, and we're using traditional enforcement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Clayton?
Chair Bosch, am I to assume that the 2024 numbers, while slightly higher on the vehicle noise piece, and it's the number year to date compared to the entire year of 2023, am I to assume that's because people are aware that we're actually monitoring it, so we're getting more calls? Or do we actually think there's more people out there disregarding the expectations around vehicle noise?
Ms. Napier?
Thank you for the question through the chair. I don't know that there's any way of telling which it is. I know when this issue was brought to my attention, I took real notice in the community. Can I say that I'm noticing a lot of it? Yes, there is. And then where we done a media release, could that be prompting people to call in because they know we're working on it? Yes. So it's probably a little bit of both.
Can I have a follow-up? Is there any municipalities that you're aware of or the chief is aware of that have bylaws? I'm thinking of repeat offenders. If somebody continually disregards, continually just happy to pay the ticket, what are the enforcement opportunities in regards to repeat offenders on some of these instances?
Ms. Napier?
Thank you for the question through the chair. So yes, I have seen in one municipality, and I don't want to quote it off the top of my head, where in their bylaw, what we have seen is that second, third offense, the penalty for that goes up quite drastically.
Okay.
So that is something to consider as a mechanism to curb it moving forward.
And sorry, did you mention when this bylaw will come back to council?
2025.
Okay. Do you or the chief want input from committee now, or you have? What's the expectation around what's coming back? I guess is my question.
Who would like to answer that? Are you good with that? Ms. Napier?
Thank you for the question. So we're just, right now, I'm saying it's coming back in 2025 because the department's looking at all their bylaws that are due to come back. Right. So this is one, and we know through the research there's a few things we would like to change. So that's something that can definitely come back, but we're at early stages.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Burke?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Bosch. Mayor Clayton made a comment that kind of sparked another question for me, and I don't know if you'll have this information, but typically from, I guess, my experience is that when somebody is making a heck of a lot of noise, there's also speeding possibly involved or stunting possibly involved. Do you have the statistics on how many, I guess, layered tickets? So rather than just one ticket for noise, is speeding or another violation included in that?
Ms. Napier?
Thank you for the question through the chair. No, I don't have in relation to how many, if they're getting multiple violations at the same time. Correct. We do see that sometimes speed can be a factor and noise goes along with it. One of the tickets that's given under this is a stunting ticket. So that is to combat the noisy vehicles. That is one of the violations. We'd have to go back and do a manual poll to see how many, multiple violations are given.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Blackmore?
Thank you, Councillor Bosch. You mentioned, Ms. Napier, that bylaw enforcement is off duty as of midnight. And in the summer, from my own personal experience, know that on 100th Avenue at about 2 o'clock in the morning, there is often a lot of motorcycles racing to the east, like out of town. And so I'm wondering, I don't feel that using police service or RCMP to deal with noise is something that I'm interested in. But I'm wondering if there are certain times of the year when maybe we want to add bylaw enforcement into longer shifts, or that overnight shift, or if, I would assume that's something that the Grande Prairie Police Service would be looking at in the future anyway. But I'm just wondering if there's been any discussion in your department about whether or not we should be using bylaw more than longer than that midnight shift end.
Thank you. Ms. Napier?
Thank you for the question through the chair. So, of course, evaluating our program, what we're delivering, our hours of service is always something that we're reconsidering. We know that there are times officers do work past midnight, not on a regular basis, but it is definitely something we can look into with our responsibilities, the department's responsibilities with traffic. It is something that will be discussed in the future going forward.
Thank you. I have a question. In regards to, I hear several complaints about somebody's neighbor starting up their truck at 6 in the morning when everybody's sleeping and it's loud, typically a truck. Is there anything that people can do about that?
Thank you for the question through the chair. So if someone is starting a vehicle up and they're not, excessively revving it, they're just starting up their vehicle, getting ready to go to work. I'm not sure why they would have to do that in summer, but, for a short period of time, unless it's outside of quiet hours or something like excessive like that, no, there's not really anything there. So if it's just regularly starting your car, but if they're excessively revving it or something, yes, there is something we can do in that circumstance.
If there's modifications to a vehicle when it starts, regardless if they're revving it or not, the point is it's still loud. So I don't understand how there is no consequence for that.
Thank you for the question through the chair. So if there's modifications, that's a different situation, but I didn't understand that there was modifications. So if there's modifications and we're aware of it, yes, we can have that addressed. And that's the majority of what the tickets, violation tickets were given for was modifications.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I'm looking for someone to make a motion. Councillor Blackburn.
I'd move committee receive this report for information.
Thank you. That is in order. We'll call the question. And that is carried. Okay, Ms. Napier, one more. Regulations on rental e-scooters in the city. Please go ahead.
In regards to regulation of rental e-scooters in the city, committee directed administration to bring a report back with changes needed to allow for the use of electric vehicles in the city. The motion followed a delegation to committee concerning the possibility of an e-bike rental business and/or e-scooter rental business operating in the city. With respect to a storefront e-bike rental business, a business owner would require a business license but would not require any changes to any city bylaws. With respect to an e-scooter rental business, the use of e-scooters along the city's public roads or on sidewalks is not permitted under the Traffic Safety Act unless those e-scooters are owned by a company which has received an exemption from the province of Alberta authorizing the company to rent e-scooters for use within a municipality. Many cities in Alberta, including Calgary, Edmonton, Red Deer, Medicine Hat, and Lethbridge, have authorized shared e-scooters. The typical process for doing so is as follows. Number 1, commence public engagement to gather community perspectives about shared e-scooters, including downtown businesses and accessibility advocates. Number 2, launch a request for proposals to determine interested companies to provide shared e-scooters. Many cities desire to limit the number of shared e-scooter companies to a small number, at least in the first pilot year. Number 3 would be to issue a letter of support to one or more successful proponents where the letter of support can be used to approach the province to request a shared e-scooter exemption. Another part of the process would be to amend the traffic bylaw and parkland bylaw to regulate shared e-scooters. And the last part would be to negotiate and execute an agreement with and issue a business license to the proponent. That concludes my report. I recommend committee accept the report for information, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Bosch. Ms. Napier, do you have any accident statistics? Because I know that there's a lot of private e-scooters out there. I know of a couple of examples where haven't followed the rules of the road on their scooters, and there have been collisions or accidents. Any idea before we potentially open up to even more, if there's any statistics around what's already occurring?
Ms. Napier?
Thank you for the question through the chair. I would check our system to see if we've had any reports of accidents, but it hasn't gotten to my level to this point. I do handle some complaints when it's about the mix of, e-bikes or bikes and pedestrians on our trail systems, but it hasn't got to my level. So I don't think if it's happening, the reporting is not there. So I don't think we have much information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Napier. I have a question in regards to speed. If we open this, I know that on trails is one thing, and there has been some concern about that, especially in blind corners. But let's say people are in the city center and they're on the sidewalks. I've already seen issues with people on bicycles, potentially nearly causing collisions with pedestrians. What is the opinion on that kind of issue, bringing an e-scooter?
Thank you, Chair Bosch. So my research has shown that every municipality out there has a different set of rules. Some are allowing it on sidewalks, some are not. Some are allowing them on their trail system. Some are allowing it on roads. Some are allowing it under 50 kilometers an hour, under 30. So what's right for this city is yet to be determined. And I think there's a lot of stakeholders that need to be consulted before you make decisions about speed, about where they're allowed. Some people don't even allow them on their sidewalks, right? For one reason or another. So I think there's a lot of perspectives that need to be gained from different stakeholders before any decisions would be made.
Okay, and I have one more question. Would this open it up to, like, you spoke here about a business specifically, but would this open it up to, like, people who have unicycles or electric skateboards? Would that then carry into private public use?
Thank you, Chair Bosch. So I think what you can do with your RFP is keep it to e-scooters, if that's just because that's just what's tabled here today, the discussion. So your RFP would have to decide what's included in that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, I look for a motion. Councillor Berg.
Thanks, Chair Bosch. I would recommend Public and Protective Services Committee receive this report for information.
Thank you, Councillor Berg. Let's call that to question.
Councillor Berg in favor.
Thank you. That is carried. Thank you, Ms. Napier, for all your work today, or presenting today, all the work that you did previously from today. We will go into 5.6, the Integrated Emergency Communications Center location.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll introduce this particular topic, and I'd like to thank Chief of Police, Mr. Lacusta, and our Fire Chief for joining me. They'll help answer questions, but I'd like to give some overarching high-level remarks about the report. This report is about a location for the Integrated Emergency Communications Center, and the recommendation is that committee recommend council designate City of 99 as the facility for the Integrated Emergency Communications Center. The report has a lot of detail, but on a high level, I just want to point out that given the 12 to 18-month timeline required for the planning and development of the communication center, there is an urgency to obtain a decision regarding this matter. This timeline is also critical for supporting GPPS's readiness to assume the role of police of jurisdiction. So in June 2024, Council directed administration to place City of 99 on the real estate market. The building was listed for sale for over 5 months with no offers to purchase. An integrated dispatch facility report was prepared earlier this year, identifying City of 99 as being the most suitable option to serve as the Integrated Emergency Communication Center, both because of a space and infrastructure that would support existing and future operations. So I will leave it at that for now, but I know there are probably many questions that I and the chiefs will help answer. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chief Lemieux. Chief Squared, I've never had this in front of me before. That's awesome. So, who would like to begin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief Lacusta. Just a few remarks. I've had the opportunity to visit a number of 911 centers throughout North America. And based on that experience, if someone were to tell me that City on 99 was purpose-built for this application, I would probably believe them. In summary, this facility provides the space needed in the shortest amount of time possible while limiting our risk profile and provides significant flexibility to explore further service level enhancements, cost controls, and/or revenue-generating opportunities. That's all I have, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Chief Lacusta, would you like to add to that before we get into questions?
I will there. Thank you, Chair. Just stressing the importance and the value this is going to bring to the transition to the Grande Prairie Police Service. We're on a timeline to transition into 2026, and not that we're too far behind the ball here when it comes to the development of the integrated communications center. Further delays will just impact our ability to transition to the service, a full transition, which is scheduled to take place in 2026.
Okay, thank you. Grant. Councillor Berg, do you want to start?
Thanks, Chair Bosch. Thanks, gentlemen. So just quickly, a quick summary, I guess. This building is ideally suited because it has the square footage, but also because bylaw was in there previously, and much of the infrastructure you need already exists. Is that correct or somewhat accurate?
Chiefs?
Yeah, through the chair. Thanks for that, Councillor. We're very well aware of the facility itself. We're well aware of the history. Well aware of the mechanical through facilities. It's a known entity. We have worked out of the location. It's ideally located for our operations. And I think just having that history, not going to an unknown, will really alleviate some of the future concerns that may exist as we've experienced through other developments within the city, through other infrastructure. I also look at the residual impact that it may have there. It's a large space there, but we also have the ability, as we develop our police service, is to use that as a satellite office as well. So that's going to provide a social presence of police officers in the immediate downtown area, which has an impact on social disorder that's impacting many of our businesses in the downtown core. So that's something that I can't really measure at this point here, but I can tell you through experience that when you have those pro-social activities, such as police officers coming in and out, that has an impact on the antisocial behavior that's plaguing the downtown core right now. So to me, it's just an ideal location. One, because of the infrastructure that's there. It's going to give us the space, the ability to work hand in hand with our partners at the Grande Prairie Fire Department, but also having that ability to support our downtown business association.
Okay, thanks, gentlemen.
Chief Lemieux, you have a comment?
I was just going to add one item, and that is that used to be a library. Therefore, we have easy access to SuperNet, and SuperNet's a requirement for the integrated dispatch center.
Thank you. That was a question. I was going to ask Councillor Blackmore.
It used to be a liquor store, too. So I don't think we need to go there. In the report, the report writer itemizes why there was an underestimation of allocation of space required for the 911 service. And I'm just wondering if you can mention that briefly. Also, I'm curious to know, as a secondary part of that, if we did acquire a AHS 911 or emergency ambulance service, how much additional space that would maybe use up. And then remind me, even though I've asked this question probably 6 times over the last 2 years, the square footage of the building.
Thank you. Councillor Blackmore. Chiefs?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll start off there and I'll lean on the fire chief there for the second part. But in regards to the call volume and the rationale behind the underestimation, so that came from the police transition report and then through the MNP report. Essentially, what they did is they based the call volume for these purposes of the dispatch on the police file caseload numbers, which was considerably lower. In any dispatch center, call evaluation center, the calls for service to police, the actual number being dispatched is about 33% of the calls that are being made there. So there's another 66% of the calls that are being dealt with by our evaluators to deal with the concerns being called in by the citizens. So it was, I don't want to sound alarming, but it was grossly underestimated when it came to the actual purposes of the call evaluation center there. And I'll lean on Chief Van Werkhoven to address the second question.
Thanks, Chief Lacusta, and through the chair. Broadly speaking, if AHS EMS, for example, wish to co-locate with the city in this transition, I would suggest that there is ample space to support that. In in the context of the geographical area that GP 911 already looks after, which is 47% of Alberta's landmass. With all due respect, Councillor Blackmore, I'll leave it there. There is further information that I could probably share that has some labor implications, contractual implications, and an NDA implication as it relates to a standing committee I sit on with the Ministry of Health. I'd be happy to provide further information through a briefing note, through our processes, or in an in-camera session.
You could probably just email that to us.
Perfect.
Square footage of the building?
Sorry, my apologies. Approximately 20,000 square feet, including all 3 levels.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Chiefs, that includes mobile outreach, that includes enforcement services in this, is it 75,000 calls?
No, Chair. That's just the police-related calls there. So as we look to provide, just to expand on Councillor Blackmore as well for her question regarding EMS, is we're developing a tiered policing model. So what we're doing here is using that center to evaluate every call for service that comes in. And we're not just looking at mobile outreach, our peace officers, our police, fire. We're looking to partner up with other agencies such as Canadian Mental Health, 211, where we can actually provide a more enhanced level of service. So when that call for service comes in from someone in the community, we're evaluating that call real time, and we're able to provide a robust response. Sending the right resources at the right time for the right reasons. So we're not sending fire or EMS or police where it might just be a mental health worker that's more appropriate to deal with that situation. So we have to look at the full scope of the business of what we're developing here, and that's just to provide a much greater level of service than just dispatching police or fire.
So just for clarity, initially it was 28,000, moved up to 75,000, but in saying what you just said, that could be double.
It could be, but that's where we have those additional resources that are taking those evaluations regardless. But now what we're able to do is partner up with the other agencies that we're in conversations with to make sure that we're sending those right resources. So regardless, fair point, but those calls are coming in anyways.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you for the report. I'm excited to see this because I think calls to service timing will be reduced in getting the right person to the right situation. Thank you. And I am looking, okay, Councillor Burr.
Thanks, Chair Bosch. I would like to move committee recommend council designate City on 99th as the facility for the Integrated Emergency Communication Center, also known as IECC.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion from committee? Okay, we'll call the vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, it's still me. Okay. I was listening to Councillor Palat. All right. Correspondence, we don't have any more in front of us. Other business, bylaws, and policies. We're looking at the outstanding items list. And I'm looking for someone to move that. Oh, you're done? Okay. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, if I could just provide an update. Thank you. So today we dealt with item 1338, 1324, 1323. So those 3 can be removed from the outstanding items list. Also, at a previous meeting, we dealt with number 1340, which is a Peace Library System Agreement. So that I would recommend that could also be taken off the list. Further to that, I would recommend that item 1264, which is the Peace Country Wolves Athletic Club Legion Track and Field, we cannot deal with that item until we've completed discussions on the indoor recreation facility. So I would ask that we move that to Q1 2025. Same with 1251, 1252, which are being discussed at an IECC meeting with the county. So I would recommend that we change those to Q1 2025, please.
Perfect. Okay. You just wanted to say again all the work that we did today, didn't you?
I would move that we accept this report as amended.
Thank you. Councillor Blackmore, let's call the question. And that is carried. Well, a lot of work done, and we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.